big news right now inside the courthouse in New York City. Prosecutors have now called Hope Hicks to the stand. It is a big moment, as I said, for Donald Trump and for this hush money trial where he is the defendant. Caitlin, we're hearing from our colleagues in the courtroom that Hicks has now entered. She walked behind the galley behind Trump. Trump and Attorney Blanche smiled toward Hicks. Caitlin.
Yeah, and just to explain the layout of this courtroom, the witness enters through a door. They go in front of whoever's there with Trump that day. We know some of his political aides and other attorneys that aren't on this case are actually in the room. But they walk behind the defense table, and then they make their way over to the witness stand. They are very close, within feet of the jurors, and so they're much closer to the prosecution table as they sit there, and it is obviously the prosecution who is going to start with these questions for Hope Hicks. She just said, quote, "I'm really nervous," while looking at the jury. Obviously, she is not someone who likes to be in the public eye. Anyone who covered Donald Trump knows this. When he once called her up onto a stage at a rally without her knowing beforehand that he was going to do that, she was kind of embarrassed as she made her way up there. She's very shy and not someone who likes to speak publicly.
Here's what prosecutors are building up to here, ultimately. Hope Hicks was the ultimate insider, as all three of you know, and prosecutors are focused on this crucial moment in time right after the Access Hollywood tape drops, October 2016, weeks before the election. And the way Matthew Colangelo described that moment during his opening is that the campaign went into, quote, damage control mode. And I think they're going to elicit from Hope Hicks what was happening inside the campaign. How concerned were you? The other crucial thing is Hope Hicks was in and out of a vital meeting in August of 2016 between Trump, Cohen, and Pecker.
And Paula, I think one thing that's really notable about this line of testimony that we've gotten from Hope Hicks, where she's been praising Donald Trump, saying what a good communicator he is with the media, talking about how bare bones the 2016 campaign was, but essentially saying Donald Trump was an incredibly hands-on manager, whether it was his business or his campaign, and that every time she issued a statement on the campaign's behalf, she checked with him first.
And of course, prosecutors like this because in their case, they're going to try to tie the fact that he is a hands-on manager to their accusation that Michael Cohen paid this hush money ahead of the 2016 campaign to help Trump get elected. He knew this was happening, and then he was aware the documents were falsified when Michael Cohen was reimbursed. So this seeming, like throwaway comments by a lot of people about how involved he was in his day-to-day business, either the Trump organization or the Trump campaign, will be significant for the prosecutors.
And we also have Judge Diane Kessel here with us, and former New York Supreme Court judge, retired former New York Supreme Court judge, I should note. And Judge, it's great to have you here as we are watching one of the most fascinating moments probably of this trial that has happened so far, given Hope Hicks and just her proximity and her closeness and how much Trump trusted her, now testifying about the craziest days of his 2016 campaign. And when she was asked what her first reaction was to getting that email from a Washington Post reporter, she said, quote, "I was concerned, very concerned." I wonder what impact you think this is having on that jury, those 12 jurors who are sitting there.
Oh, I think good afternoon. I think this jury is on the edge of its seats right now. Hope Hicks seems to be a likable witness. She so far seems to have no particular axe to grind. Unlike Michael Cohen, we haven't heard anything about her posting negative tweets or having any type of falling out with the former president. So depending on how she's presenting this evidence, I suspect the jury likes her. I suspect the jury is riveted, and she will be an extraordinarily effective witness for the people. And it will be very interesting to see how the defense handles her on cross-examination. I mean, a woman who walks into a courtroom and says, "I'm really nervous to be here," I don't know that they want to go after her very harshly. That could backfire.
Dana, I mean, this was that pivotal moment in the campaign where people kind of described the blood draining from everyone's face in the room. As Hope Hicks came in, she motioned for them to come into the conference room so she could tell them that the Washington Post has an audio tape of this Republican nominee for president bragging about sexually assaulting women, and just that moment in the campaign in and of itself.
Caitlin, there are countless days and countless campaigns that we have covered, and that is one that I will never, ever forget, that moment that you're talking about as a reporter when we heard about it. Thank you so much, and we are hearing now from the courtroom, Hicks says she shared the content, quote, verbally with Trump, saying she has a vague recollection of starting to read the transcript and Trump finished reading it himself. Okay, that must have been a bit awkward. As we continue to get updates from this really dramatic set of questions and answers, Hope Hicks, quote, he said, that didn't sound like something he would say, Hicks testifies, noting Trump asked if he could see the actual tape. Well, it was something he actually said. As you talk about this, can you please put yourself in the shoes of the prosecution and explain to our viewers why this line of questioning about the Access Hollywood tape?
Right. So this is really powerful evidence for prosecutors so far. They are showing that inside the Trump campaign, when this tape drops a couple weeks before the election, the Trump campaign goes into full panic mode. Hope Hicks is right there in the middle. She's detailing it.
And she says they were all, quote, absorbing the shock of it, and they discussed trying to get a copy of the audio of the tape to assess the situation further.
So, like I said, full panic mode. And here's why it matters legally. One of the things the prosecutors have to prove, it's not enough in itself, but they have to prove that the reason the business records were falsified is because they were worried about the campaign. They were worried about what these accusations by Stormy Daniels would do to the campaign. It has to be some substantial campaign-related motivation. I personally think, I've said on air several times, I think the evidence that this was a campaign-related move is quite powerful, quite overwhelming. I think that the reason they paid off Stormy Daniels, good question. The reason they paid off Stormy Daniels was in large part, doesn't have to be 100%, but in large part motivated by, oh my gosh, we're a couple weeks away from the campaign. We need to keep her quiet. This is more evidence of that.
The prosecutor asked Hope Hicks, was Mr. Trump upset when he saw the tape? Yes, yeah, he was, Hicks said. She said there was a consensus among the group, quote, the tape was damaging. This was a crisis. Yeah, it sure was.
This wasn't just a crisis. This was a huge bombshell. We talk in politics about October surprises. This was the ultimate October surprise. Just to go back, there was reporting that Mike Pence was considering leaving the ticket. They did not know that they could survive this, that the whole thing wasn't going to unravel. I just think that if you look at her testimony today, someone who likes Donald Trump, has spoken well of him, nothing hostile, and then here you go. This is the backdrop for Stormy Daniels 2 weeks later.
And that's really key here.
She first heard of Karen McDougal on November 4th, 2016. David Pecker testified last week that he was on the phone with Hope Hicks when she was a taxpayer-funded White House official, along with the White House press secretary, Sarah Sanders, about whether to extend their agreement with Karen McDougal. I mean, this was definitely not the last time she was going to hear of Karen McDougal. And I should note, Hicks is saying that she heard of Stormy Daniels one other time before Daniels was mentioned in that November 4th Wall Street Journal story. Dana.
Caitlin, thank you. So we saw over the past hour or so the prosecution laying the basis for the Hicks testimony in and around Access Hollywood. And two things, Ellie. One is that Donald Trump was very involved, micromanaging even. And two, that the focus was on the campaign. Yeah. That was where their focus is. And now they're turning that, with that sort of building block, they're turning the questioning to Karen McDougal and now Stormy Daniels. So
up until now in the trial, we've only heard about the panic in the campaign from outsiders, from people at AMI, David Pecker, from the lawyers for the lawyer Keith Davidson, who represented Stormy Daniels and Karen McDougal. And they're all sort of drawing inferences. They're saying it seemed like there was concern. I believe there was concern. Now the jury's hearing it from the ultimate insider, and she's walking them through chapter and verse of just how concerned Donald Trump personally was, directly, just how concerned the campaign was. And that sets the stage for answering the question, why? Why did they pay off Stormy Daniels? Of course, the prosecution's argument is because they were worried about the campaign.